This is the Easy Betting Show. My name is Easy, and today we are talking about college football week 4 picks. Should be a good one. A few good games on the slate for this weekend. I know it's a little bit late than I normally am on this show, but I felt like shit yesterday, so I didn't do a show. So we're going to be doing 2 shows today. The college show, obviously, right now. And then in a couple hours, I'll be doing my NFL picks for this weekend as well. So make sure you hop into that one too. But I am going to get into the plays that I like for this weekend. If you've watched this before, you know how I do this. I'm not going through all of the games. I picked my 11 favorite in this one. And I think I'm actually going to start doing that moving forward. I'm going to be doing a 12-unit max for my college slate and also 12-unit max for my NFL slate as well. I'll talk a little bit about that in that show. But I think it's just a little bit cleaner. I tend to do a ton of plays each week. And I know a lot of people don't love that. A lot of people can't bet that. So I'll narrow it down to my favorites and just make it a little bit cleaner. So my 11 favorite for this week on the slate, 12 units that I have. I actually have 12 and a half units on this one, but you know, it's close enough, whatever. So I'm going to get right into it, starting with a couple of games that are tonight. So get these in if you're tailing me before the game start. First one that I'm going to talk about is Illinois at Nebraska. Nebraska's 8.5-point favorites. They're minus 315 on the money line. Illinois is plus 250 on the money line, and the over/under is 42.5. Obviously, everyone's talking about freshman quarterback Dylan Raiola, or Baby Mahomes, for this game. He's had a good start to the season. He's just really weird. I don't know why he wants to be Patrick Mahomes so bad to the point where it's just kind of goofy at this point, in my opinion, but I don't know. But he has had a pretty good start to the season. He hasn't been explosive, really. It's been a lot of just kind of like easy throws and check down stuff and kind of playing safe with him so far, I'll say. But he has completed 70% of his targets. So he has looked pretty good, only a couple of turnovers. But they haven't really played a real defense yet this year. And I think Illinois is going to be the first quote unquote real defense that they play that could possibly affect him a little bit. Nebraska has been run heavy to start the season, which again is why he hasn't really looked explosive and just really hasn't made a lot of mistakes so far this year. But again, they haven't seen a defense that's really been able to stop the run. And I think Illinois is going to be able to do that. So I think Raiola is going to have to kind of show who he is a little bit more in this one. And that's probably going to decide the game, is if he's actually good or if he's just kind of been safe. On top of that, Illinois' defense is plus 8 in turnovers this year. And that could affect the Huskers a little bit more in this one. They haven't really turned it over much, but again, that's because they haven't played great defenses. So that could be a major factor as well. And I think it will play in a good bit into this game. The Huskers also haven't really faced a team yet that can run the ball like Illinois can. They are very good on the ground. And they also have Luke Altmaier at quarterback this year, who played really well against Nebraska last year. And he can also get them out of some of the tougher situations that they could potentially be in. So I think with Illinois' run-heavy game, Altmaier being able to not suck, and with Nebraska just finally facing a team that's actually going to give them some fits on defense, I think they keep it close here. I think Illinois controls the clock. They run the ball heavily, and they keep it close. My guess is the Huskers probably win by 3, maybe 4, but I do think Illinois covers. So I'm going Illinois plus 8.5. That's minus 108. So I'm putting 1.1 unit on that one. For the other Friday game that I am betting on, it is Stanford at Syracuse. Syracuse is minus 8.5, minus 315 on the money line. Stanford is plus 250 on the money line, and the over-under is 56.5. Syracuse has looked really good so far this year. They're kind of in the ACC championship conversation now because of, one, how they've played, but also how the ACC has just kind of been a shit show right now. so far in the season with the whole Florida State thing, and then Georgia Tech winning and then losing, and then Clemson kind of a question mark because they lost to Georgia pretty bad, but then beat the hell out of Appalachian State. But then Appalachian State got dominated by South Alabama. So what the hell's going on with Clemson? It's just kind of a shit show in the ACC right now, and I think Syracuse is probably taking the most advantage of that out of everyone. They're also just a pretty good team so far. Kyle McCord has been a great addition for them at quarterback. He also has one of the top offenses in the country right now behind him. They're just explosive. And Stanford's defense is not very good. They've given almost 300 yards a game through the air. And one of those two teams that they played was Cal Poly. So clearly they're not a very good defense. Also through 2 games, Stanford's offense has averaged 34 points a game. But again, it was against Cal Poly. And they used 3 quarterbacks last week. So they're probably going to have to shore some stuff up, especially in this one, if they want a chance to even be in this game, because history will show you that using multiple quarterbacks, especially 3 quarterbacks in one game, typically does not bode well for your team. So I'm fading the QB rotation here. I'm rolling with McCord and the Syracuse offense to have another big game. I'm going Syracuse minus 8.5. That's minus 110. So I'm putting 1.1 units on that one. Moving into the Saturday slate. First one I'm going to talk about is Charlotte at Indiana. Indiana is 27.5 point favorites. They're minus 10,000 on the money line. Charlotte is plus 2,500 on the money line, and the over-under is 49.5. This one seems fairly easy to me. Indiana's offense has been on a tear so far this year. They won by 74 2 weeks ago, although it was against Western Illinois. But then they beat UCLA by 29 last week. They just seem to be rolling on offense. You know, in both in the passing game and the rushing game, they're just kind of setting fire every week they come out. On the other side of the ball, Charlotte has pretty much just been as bad as Indiana's been good. Their only win was against Gardner-Webb last week, and they only won by 1 point. They just don't really seem like a good team. And with the way that Indiana's offense is just rolling right now, I feel like you just have to bet Indiana. So I'm going Indiana minus 27.5, minus 126. So a little bit of juice on that, 1.3 units. But yeah, I think they win this game easily, and they could be up 30 at the half. It just seems like an absolute blowout game here. Yeah, see, I agree. Charlotte is in shambles, and Indiana's offense is just explosive right now. I mean, they're going to have a hard time once they get into the Big Ten, but right now, and especially against a team like Charlotte, they're going to just lose their minds on the offensive side of the ball. Next one that I'm going to talk about, UCLA at LSU. LSU is minus 20.5, minus 2,100 on the money line. UCLA is plus 980 on the money line, and the over-under is 56.5. If you watched last week, you saw that we had UCLA losing. That was one of the good covers for us. They just haven't really looked good this year. They barely beat Hawaii. They got rolled by Indiana 2 weeks ago, I guess. But yeah, and then they have to travel halfway across the country now to play in a hostile LSU stadium. It just doesn't seem like a good fit for them, even if they were a decent team, but they just aren't very good. LSU on the other side, they haven't looked great either. I mean, they struggled with South Carolina last week, who is a pretty good team, at least defensively. They also lost to USC week 1. Their defense doesn't look good at all, but Nussmeier does seem to be getting some footing with this team, and the run game is a huge help for him with the offense. So that's probably going to be a major piece of the game plan in this one, is just run the piss out of the ball, try to get Nussmeier to not make mistakes. And with UCLA just not being able to do much on either side of the ball right now, I think this is an easy win for LSU. So LSU minus 20.5, minus 122 on that one. So again, 1.3 units there. Next one that I'm talking about is one that I actually flipped my opinion on as I was doing my research. And that's Buffalo at Northern Illinois. NIU is minus 13.5, minus 580 on the money line. Buffalo is plus 420 on the money line, and the over-under is 43.5. I was originally on Buffalo here because Northern Illinois is coming off of that massive win against Notre Dame. They did have a bye week between the games, which I think will help them out a good bit, kind of settling them down a little bit and getting them back into the process of, hey, this is still just the season. We have to go through the season. But NIU has been pretty good on both sides of the ball in their 2 games so far. The offense showed out week 1 against Western Illinois, winning 54-15. Now, granted, it's Western Illinois, but they still looked really good on the offensive side of the ball. And then obviously 2 weeks ago, the defense looked really good against Notre Dame. Part of that was probably Notre Dame's fault, but they did look good, and the offense kept it together as well, kind of showing against non-Notre Dame schools, the offense is going to be able to roll. So I think NIU is definitely a better than expected team this year. And on top of that, Buffalo has not been very good on the offensive side of the ball. They rank 124th in the passing game, which is not good at all. And Barksdale, their quarterback, has also been sacked 5 times so far this year. So I think the NIU defense will definitely be able to get to the quarterback, create pressure, and not only with sacks, but also probably get a turnover or 2 as well. Now, Buffalo's defense is solid, so that could, make it a little bit closer earlier in the game. But come second half, I think NIU's offense starts to roll. Their defense continues to do what they've been doing, and this is an easy cover for them. Plus, you're getting 13.5, not 14.5, which I think is a great number. So NIU minus 13.5, minus 110, so 1.1 unit on that one. Next one that I'm going to be talking about is Arkansas at Auburn. Auburn is 2.5-point favorites, minus 138 on the money line. Arkansas is plus 115 on the money line. Over under is 56.5. Arkansas is basically built around their strong running game. It's led by Jaquindon Jackson, who has been really good for them this year. They also have Taylon Green. He's a big piece of the rushing game as well. He hasn't done a ton in the passing game. They've kind of struggled with the passing game so far this year, but I think he can definitely improve and get that part of the offense going better. And this is a game where that could potentially start to happen. They also have a top 15 offensive line this year, which obviously is a big part of that running game. So I think they're going to be run heavy in this one. On the other side of the ball, Auburn's quarterback, freshman Hank Brown, he's only going to be in his second start after taking over. And I just don't think the offense is trustworthy right now. I don't think they're going to be able to do much. The O-line gave up 3 sacks against Cal 2 weeks ago. The Razorbacks could easily do that again. So I'm going to go with Arkansas here. Arkansas plus 2.5. It's only minus 105. So 1.1 unit on that. But I feel like you can take the money line as well, because I do think Arkansas is going to win this game. And I think they have a great shot in this one. I'm taking the 2.5 just because it is an SEC game, so you never really know what's going to happen. And I think that does just make it a little bit cleaner. But the money line, get the odds if you want them. It should be just as good. Another one that I'm talking about, I've bet on this team probably every week they've played. They've been just a mining for the season so far. New Mexico State at Sam Houston. Sam Houston State is minus 16.5, minus 880 on the money line. New Mexico State's plus 580 on the money line. The over-under is 44.5. And again, I've said this with Sam Houston pretty much every time they've played. I think they've cashed 2 out of the 3 times so far. This seems pretty easy to me. You just fade New Mexico State. They only had 138 yards on offense last week. They threw 3 interceptions, and they got absolutely blown out by Fresno State last week. The defense gave up 48 points. They couldn't move the ball on offense. They're just a bad team. Their entire team from last year, which unfortunately was a really good team last year, they're all at Vanderbilt now, and they just don't have much left this year. On the other side of that, Sam Houston State, the passing game's not great, but they have a really good running game. They should be able to throw the ball on New Mexico State as well, which they probably won't even have to do much. And as long as they don't turn the ball over, which Sam Houston can do sometimes, this should be an easy game for them to cover. And they could win by like 28 in this one. I don't see this being close for most of the game. So Sam Houston minus 16.5, minus 110. So I got 1.1 unit on that one as well. Next game is another team that I have bet on a bunch this year so far, Wyoming at North Texas. North Texas is minus 7.5, minus 235 on the money line. Wyoming is plus 190 on the money line, and the over-under is 55.5. I've bet on North Texas pretty much every week. They did get just absolutely destroyed last week against Texas Tech, but the over still hit, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, this is another easy one to me. Wyoming is bad. They're just not a good team. And on top of that, North Texas is a very good offensive team. Yes, they got destroyed by Texas Tech last week, but Texas Tech's a pretty good team. And North Texas made a lot of mistakes that made that game way uglier than it could have been. I think they clean up a lot of mistakes in this one. And I don't think Wyoming is going to push that many mistakes on them anyway, because they're just not nearly as good. And the North Texas offense is going to roll like they have in previous weeks. Now, North Texas defense still is not good. We saw that last week. We've seen that in previous weeks. They don't have a defense. But against Wyoming, who has only put up a max of 14 points in a game, and that was against BYU, I don't think the defense is going to really have to, do much. So I think the Mean Green's offense rolls again in this one. I think the defense just enough. And not only do they cover, I think they probably win by at least 2 touchdowns here. So North Texas, minus 7.5, which is plus money. You're getting plus 102. So I'm going to throw a unit on that one as well. I thought that spread would be way more than that. That makes no sense to me. So love that. It'll probably keep going up if I had to guess before the game starts tomorrow. But either way, I would take it. All right, I got 3 left for you. Next game that I'm going to talk about is a big one that a lot of people have been talking about. That is Tennessee at Oklahoma. Tennessee is minus 6.5 on the road. They're minus 245 on the money line. Oklahoma's plus 198 on the money line, and the over-under is 56.5. Now, Tennessee's offense has looked really good this year, but they haven't really played any good teams. The best team they played was NC State, who, yes, they were ranked at the time, but they probably shouldn't have been. NC State's not nearly as good of a team as people thought they were going to be coming in, but Iamaleava has been good at quarterback, both throwing the ball and in the run game. He seems like a guy that can get the job done. He has made a couple mistakes so far, especially against NC State in that game. So he will have to clean that up some. And Oklahoma is a team that could, kind of abuse that if he is making mistakes and doing dumb shit. But on the other side of the ball, Jackson Arnold at quarterback for Oklahoma, I don't trust him at all. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. He turns the ball over a lot. He's only completing 59% of his passes right now, and he has a negative EPA rating on the season. He's just not that good of a quarterback. And if I'm going between, can Tennessee win in a hostile environment like Oklahoma, or would I rather bet on Jackson Arnold? I'm going to bet on the good team in a hostile environment. So until Tennessee shows me something that there's no reason to bet on them, I'm going to. And Maliava just seems like a good quarterback right now. And if he cleans up the mistakes, he could be a great quarterback. So yeah, I'm going with Imaliava and Tennessee's offense specifically in this one. I do think the defense probably turns it over at least once. So I do think that'll help them as well. But yeah, Tennessee minus 6.5, minus 118, 1.2 units on that one. Next one is TCU at SMU. TCU is minus 2.5, minus 122 on the money line. SMU is plus 102 on the money line, and the over-under is 59.5. This is another game where I'm kind of fading a team more than I am betting on a team. I don't think SMU is very good this year. They had a lot of hype coming into the season, and for good reason. They had a really great season last year. Preston Stone looked really good last year. Now Preston Stone is being benched for Kevin Jennings, and he'll be in his first start in this game. Whether it's Preston Stone or Kevin Jennings, I do not trust this offense. They barely have a run game at all, so you pretty much have to trust the passing game, which they've showed they cannot do. And on top of that, you have a new quarterback coming in that obviously isn't very good, or he'd have been the starter from the jump. And now he has to make plays and make it happen. It just seems really weird. And I cannot trust that. Now, on the other side of the ball, the defense has looked pretty good, but they haven't really played a good offense yet this year. So that could kind of be skewed numbers. And I think Josh Hoover, TCU's quarterback, will let everyone know if SMU's defense is actually good or not. He's lit up defenses this year. He has a 70% completion rate. He's basically just been able to do what he wants. So I think TCU will be able to move the ball down the field here. I think they're easily going to be able to score touchdowns, especially in the red zone. And SMU cannot find the end zone pretty often on their plays. Even when they're driving, they struggle in the red zone a lot. So the drives where TCU is actually scoring touchdowns, even if SMU is moving the ball, they'll probably still be held to field goals, and that could be the deciding factor. So TCU -2.5, -106. So you're getting really good odds there. 1.1 unit on that one. And then the last game that I'm going to talk about today, I saved this one for last because it's such a weird and ugly game. USC at Michigan. USC is -4.5 right now. -192 on the money line. Michigan is +158 on the money line. The over-under is 44.5. Yeah, this has been such a weird game to look at over the last week. The public is heavy on USC, which has moved the line a bunch. And then the Sharps or Michigan fans, whatever you want to call it, they've started to bet on Michigan. So now it's back down to 4.5. The line has just been all over the place. And I hate the whole public thing because to me, it's just kind of dumb, but it does kind of warrant taking a look at. As for the actual teams, Alex Orji is coming in to play quarterback this week, replacing Davis Warren for Michigan. Davis Warren was horrible, so I don't think Alex Orji can get any worse, but he was the backup for a reason, so I don't know. He is probably going to bring in some more in the run game, which does need help because Michigan's run game hasn't really been great, except for against the shit schools they've played. But can he pass the ball? That's kind of the question in this game, because if he can even throw it decently, Michigan probably wins because they do have a very solid defense. But I just can't trust Alex Orji in this. And then on the other side, you got USC, whose defense has been a lot better than any Lincoln Riley team has really had on the defensive side of the ball. And then for offense, you obviously have the Lincoln Riley system with Miller Moss at quarterback, who's been playing well so far this year. And he's got a bunch of skill guys around him that obviously are going to benefit from him as well. So this just screams you have to bet USC here. And even though you're riding with the public and as ugly as it is, I have to go with the public here. So I'm going to bet USC -4.5, -110, so 1.1 unit on it. I don't love it just because of the whole public bullshit, but I mean, what can you do? USC should be the better team here, and they should be able to win this fairly easily, you would think, unless the defense for Michigan just absolutely comes alive. So, yeah. For how many rushing attempts do I think Orji has? Probably a good bit. I don't know what the line is. I don't have player props in Virginia, which sucks, and I hate it. But depending on what the line is, I would probably bet over on his rushing attempts. I would say he probably hits double digits. My guess is they're going to use him in the run game a fair bit, but USC's defense, like I said, it is a lot better this year. So they are probably going to get some pressure on him, and he's going to have to run out of pressure. So I think he gets a number of carries on both aspects of that. So yeah, I mean, I would say probably 10 to 12, maybe. Maybe even more if they're playing from behind and he has to drop back a lot. But yeah, I think I don't think he's a good passer. So because of that, I think he's going to look to run faster than he's going to look for his second option. So again, I don't know what his line is, but yeah, I would bet the over if you can take it. Okay, I got you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ask him what the line is, and if it's anything, if it's lower than like 15, I would take the over. I really think he's going to run a lot. Now his yards are probably safer than his attempts are, but yeah, I think it's going to be very run heavy for Orgy in this game. I think that's the only way they really have a chance, to be honest. Yeah, so that is what I have for this slate. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Make sure you like and subscribe for me. If you're not already subscribed, I would appreciate it. Tell your friends to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100. I just broke halfway there, which is awesome. I appreciate everyone that hangs out with me that subscribed. It means a lot. In a couple hours, I will be doing my NFL picks for this week. So make sure you hop back on for that one and check that one out as well. It's going to be a lot of really good bets in that one too. But yeah, appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I'll see y'all in the next one.